Hey, Dr. Bryce Lee with Strength Space, and another frequently asked question we get all the time is, what about a warm-up? At Strength Space, when clients show up, we're going to move directly into their first exercise within a minute of them showing up. And we're not going to take a long, elaborate chunk of time to warm the tissues up. And very often people will say, well, aren't we supposed to warm up before we exercise? So let's talk about why a warm-up can be very useful and then why it doesn't necessarily apply to this form of strength training or exercise. The first way that a warm-up can be really helpful to the body is to prepare connective tissues, the tendons and the ligaments in our joints, for the explosive high force that is involved in sporting activities, right? I do recreational rock climbing, but I've also played tennis and played other sports. And in most of those activities, taking your time to build up and lubricate and warm up the joints can be really helpful because tendons and ligaments aren't very well vascularized. They don't have a ton of blood flow into them. And so protecting them and delivering nutrients to them requires that we take time to improve the fluid flow through our tissues to get to them. It's a little bit slower of a process to get nutrients into and waste products out of a tendon than it is from a muscle. And so it can help to raise the core temperature of the body and also to gradually build up loading in the tendons to make sure that they're ready for whatever we're going to ask for them during a high effort and particularly high force activity. Okay? The second idea is that in cardiovascular fitness, our aerobic capacity, which means our ability to do work that is sustainable for a long time because we're able to get rid of the carbon dioxide and bring new oxygen in, that aerobic capacity for exercise, we can improve that aerobic capacity in the here and now, just in the next 10 minutes, by doing a warm-up to sort of wake up the mitochondria, wake up the blood flow, get the energy pathways and the enzymes cranking that are going to be needed to deliver energy and remove waste, right? Not as much of a big impact on a sprint. If you're going to sprint 100 meters, you don't want to do long, elaborate warm-ups. But if you're going to do more like a ramping up effort test or a longer run or a longer aerobic effort, then where you're actually going to try to test the upper limits of your capacity, then it is true that doing a warm-up 5, 10, 15 minutes or more even, depending on the length of your test, can improve the performance of that test or a race, can improve your performance during the race because you give your body a chance to crank up the metabolic machinery necessary. So aerobic activities and high force demanding on the tendons. Those are the two things that really benefit from warm-ups. The other, maybe the third thing would be if the strength training exercise you're doing involves a lot of technique and also getting your body into difficult positions. So I think of a back squat, bars on your back, your hips, everything has to be very warm and loose in order to allow you to get into the position safely so that you don't round your back over, right? That you want to maintain your good posture, okay? So maybe those are the three good examples of when a warm-up is necessary, and none of those three things occur during a strength space workout, right? During our workouts, we're going out of our way, even though we use meaningful loads, we're going out of our way to keep forces low. We don't want bouncing, yanking forces on our tendons during a strength space workout, during a high effort strength training workout. So instead, we change direction very slowly with every exercise we do, which keeps the muscle under a great deal of stress, but it minimizes the yanking forces on tendons, sort of making that part of a warm-up not very necessary for us. The second thing is that the metabolic threshold in which we're working during a strength space workout is very anaerobic, meaning that the activity is by definition unsustainable. You couldn't leg press for 30 minutes in the way that you can jog for 30 minutes. And so because of that, there's less of an incentive to crank up the aerobic machinery in our legs when we're going to be on the leg press machine and then off of it in just 2 minutes at most, maybe 3 minutes on the outside. So the event just isn't long enough to justify a long aerobic warm-up to prepare for it, because then we're going to be done with that muscle, we're going to go on to a different muscle, and aerobic warm-ups don't warm up every part of your body, they warm up the muscles you're working. And then the third thing is that we simply don't engage in high skill, high technique, potentially dangerous exercises where it's really important to stretch and warm up to make sure we can maintain the body position. We select exercises that are very simple and that don't require a lot of technique, so there's as little as possible to think about so that you can just focus on tiring your muscles out and stimulating them correctly, and then we move on to another exercise. when we do our exercises, the very first repetition almost serves as a warm-up for the exercise. It's sub-maximal in effort, and we move very slowly through it, and that gives the body a chance to get ready for the 5th, the 6th, the 8th, the 10th rep. Whatever rep it is that is going to be the maximal effort, we will get there at the end of the set and have had time to wake up the nervous system, wake up the tissues, so that they're ready for that maximal effort, as opposed to picking a weight that is so heavy that we need to be able to generate a 100% effort for a 1 repetition maximum on the first set, first rep. We don't do that at Strength Space. So most of the reasons why you would want to warm up, they're not bad reasons. They just don't really apply to this. When you train in this way, you train with a very efficient, joint-friendly, low-risk approach to strength training. A lot of the things that take up a ton of time in the gym are just unnecessary, and we can just get directly to the benefits we're after: stronger muscles, safer joints, an anaerobically healthy system that can generate a lot of effort and tolerate the waste products that are generated from anaerobic sprint level type efforts. We can get all of that in a very time efficient 30 minutes without the need for an elaborate warm-up. So I hope that helps you, and I hope that you learned something new today. I really hope you check out our next frequently asked question video. Again, I'm Dr. Bryce Lee with Strength Space. Thanks for your attention.